How you doing? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the inaugural episode of O'Neill Speaks, the official podcast of the Paul H. O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. We're excited to have you with us, but we're even more excited to be able to bring you insights on the biggest issues facing us today from the world-class minds at the O'Neill School. Every 2 weeks, we'll be joined by a faculty member or student to get their perspective on developments in the news or hear about their groundbreaking research. Hopefully, we'll help you see your world in a new way through the eyes of the people who make a difference by leading for the greater good. And what better way to begin our first episode than by welcoming our Dean, Sian Mooney. Dean Mooney became the 5th Dean of the O'Neill School in 2019. Her research interests lie in questions related to the use of natural resources and the environment. She's an economist who has worked for many years on topics related to water use in the western United States, endangered species, and the impacts of climate change. Now, recently, she's become interested in the incentives that scientists face to address complex problems as part of multidisciplinary teams and the role of science information in decision-making. Over the past several months, she's been the presiding dean during the O'Neill School's 50th anniversary, and her steady leadership is one of the reasons the O'Neill School has continued its reputation as a thought leader in public and environmental affairs. Dean Mooney, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much, Ken. It's really happy to be here with you today.
Well, before we get to the O'Neill School, let's start with you. Just first off, tell us a little bit about your path to become the dean of the O'Neill School. Walk us down that I don't want to use the word journey because I think that's overused, but just your path to IU.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm probably someone who is a unusual person to be in this position. I'm a first-gen college student from the UK originally, and here I am leading the top school of public affairs within the nation. And the path was kind of a circuitous one. It wasn't really planned. I went to undergraduate degree, kind of got interested in research, and finally ended up coming to the US to do my PhD in economics. And I would say, my path to the deanship was really one where people really helped me along the way to see new potentials and new interesting things. So I kind of really just went from one opportunity to the other. And then a few years ago, when I was working at a different institution, this fantastic opportunity came up, and I thought, wow, I could really see myself at the O'Neill School. I have a really complex interdisciplinary background. I've always worked with social scientists as well as environmental scientists, and the O'Neill School, I think, just had that perfect combination, actually, for me. And so all of a sudden, much to my great surprise, I found myself here.
You said that you didn't expect to be a researcher. When you were younger, what did you expect to be?
Well, when I was younger, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I really wanted to have I've always loved nature, and I've always really loved the environment and being outside, and I actually had quite a lot of animals when I was younger, dogs, a couple of horses, that kind of thing. And I really thought that being a vet would be the way that I would go. And much to my great surprise, I ended up being an economist instead, which I often have students that ask me, how did you get onto your path? And, how did you plan it all out? And really, it was just very unplanned. Just one day I thought, well, that really looks interesting. And I seized the moment and took it. And it has been really interesting.
Well, I was going to ask, what drew you to research?
Well, so actually, when I was an undergraduate student, and this was in the UK, Chernobyl blew, and so you might remember the big nuclear fallout from Chernobyl, and there was a plume of radioactivity that traveled across Europe, and I was in Wales at the time. That's where I did my undergraduate degree, and it rains there quite a lot, and so this radioactive plume rained down radioactive rain in Wales, and some of the food supply became contaminated, so sheep and the milk supply, and it was really sort of a public health surprised because I don't think any government had really thought about, well, what would we do if our food supply becomes radioactive? And so I was an undergraduate degree there. There was a gentleman there from the University of Calgary by the name of Bill Kerr, who now works in Saskatoon. And he asked me if I would be his research assistant. And at the time, I'd say I was really intimidated and I didn't really know what to expect. And I went out and interviewed farmers about how they were dealing with this. It was an economic crisis because they couldn't sell their sheep because they were into the food supply because they were radioactive and clearly not fit for human consumption. And they couldn't sell their milk. So it was a real economic issue, and it was a real policy issue because the government just didn't really know what to do because it was a big unexpected surprise essentially. And so kind of through working on that, it was just so interesting to see all of the things that we didn't know and all of the things that we kind of needed to figure out. And I'd never really thought about what it was to sort of dig deep into an issue before. So it helped me to really dig deep and to kind of, I think, generate an interest in how things work, why they don't work. And I think all the human interest too about how sometimes really unexpected things can really affect people both positively and negatively, and I think sort of the role of government and policy kind of in our daily lives. So that was a long explanation, but I really just started to love finding out more about things.
The opportunity to come to the O'Neill School, what was attractive to you about that? What drew you here?
Oh, there was so many things. So let me just try and think of a couple of things. But first I think it's high quality, most definitely. I mean, it's had this amazing reputation for a very long time during its 50 years of having just amazing faculty. It's also produced some amazing leaders. But I would say, personally, in addition to all of those things, I think the breadth of expertise here is something that really, really attracted me. The fact that we have the ability at the O'Neill School to really address the problems of today, which are really multifaceted, and they require all kinds of different viewpoints because they're really complicated. One viewpoint is not going to really help us make progress
right.
in any of these things.
Debate's part of everything.
Yeah, exactly. And there are the big problems of today are really complex problems, which is why we haven't solved them. Like, we're slowly chipping away at them and trying to figure out what to do to make society better, to make the world better. So that really attracted me. And then I think the fact, so it's a fantastic cohort of people put together in a really interesting way. And I think the kind of and as a result, I think the kind of education that our students can get here too, I think is really unique. This is truly a place like no other because the students get to learn from so many different people who are experts in so many different areas. And, clearly they go on to really great success. But those were some of the things that really attracted me. I think this interdisciplinary nature where you come together with all kinds of expertise, and I think it really helps you to kind of really move the conversation forward, and I've not seen that in any other place.
You've not quite been here 4 years, but what do you take a lot of pride in when it comes to the O'Neill School?
Oh, I think we're known not only for excellence. I think we're extremely high quality. I think relevance is another thing. You look at all the things that we do here, all of the different areas that we work on, health, climate change, environment, our excellence in the area of non-profits. I think that those are really fantastic things. But also, I think the people, this is probably sounds a bit trite to say, but I think this really is a warm and welcoming environment. I think people can really thrive here. I hear that from students pretty much all the time. And then also, when I talk to alumni, people really look back fondly. But I think this is just a great environment where there's a lot of intellectual exchange. And not only that, it's kind of warm and welcoming.
you have your research career that you look back and you've been very successful with, but is there a general area or a field that you could wish you could kind of jump into or jump back and start over that you have concerns about as being an area that could use more research or that you would just be interested in?
Yeah. If I was to do it all again, go back through my career one more time, to be honest, I have really enjoyed being I do still enjoy being an environmental economist. I really feel like I found my calling there and my passion. But I think that actually I would do more in the area of science. I think this area of interdisciplinary research is important. I think I would be really interested to perhaps do another degree in environmental sciences. I think that so I could really mix together the social sciences and environmental sciences. And then also I will say that there's sort of another passion that I have, which is completely different. And perhaps if I had another 4 lives, because I am someone I think who's curious about a lot of things. But in my personal life, I've always really enjoyed sports like running and mountain biking, and I was actually a competitive Nordic skier for a number of years, and I've always been really super interested in kinesiology, and I thought that coaching would be really interesting and human performance, but completely different from my career as an economist.
Competitive Nordic skier in Indiana? I don't know if that was a great choice to come over here with not a lot of Nordic skiing over here.
Not a lot, yes. I think you're right there. Well, I've lived in some cold and snowy places. So I've lived in Montana and Wyoming and Idaho, amongst many other states. And actually, I was a competitive mountain biker, first of all, and actually prior to that, I also played squash for my university, which is not so popular in the US. But I was a competitive mountain biker and used to race on a team. And when I moved to Montana, there was a lot of snow and I couldn't mountain bike all year round. And so I saw people doing this strange sport in the park, which turned out to be skate skiing, and which is a very high cardiovascular sport. And so I learned how to do that. And I was really fortunate. One of the people that I knew, I was actually helping to edit his master's thesis that was in kinesiology on strength training for women in Nordic skiing, and he swapped me ski lessons for that, so I would become a better Nordic skier. And it turned out that he had been one of the coaches for the Yugoslavian Olympic ski team. Wow. Yes,
that's which a good coach.
He was a very good coach. It turned out, and so he gave me a few lessons, and probably in about 10 lessons, he probably moved me forward about 6 years in technique. It's a very technique-intensive sport. And so I skied really a lot. And at one time when I worked for the University of Wyoming, I skied actually on their ski team there as a faculty member.
Oh,
with the students. So probably more than you ever wanted to know about my skiing career.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. That was unexpected. I did not see that coming.
I have not skied much in Indiana.
Yeah, no, it's difficult.
But I do still bike a lot.
Well, yeah, I know that you bike to work very, very frequently. So
yeah, I love it. The parking's so much easier on your bike.
Yeah, I bet. Now, is there an area of research that you are really interested in, you enjoy, but you think to yourself, I want no part of actually doing the research on that, but you enjoy reading about?
Oh. Yeah, I can't really think of anything in particular. Well, there probably are a lot of areas that I know nothing about. So I probably, when I read those articles, they don't really appeal to me. But I think I have really broad and eclectic tastes. I'm someone who really loves to dig in and find out about a lot of things, which is why I really like research. I love to know how things work, why they don't work, kind of how you can make them better. And I'm not really sure there's anything that I would truly hate to do. Like I love math, I love writing, and I think that many of those things lend themselves to all kinds of things.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this and the students here, and the historically they have gone on to be leaders in a wide range of areas. you've worked in different universities. Are there certain traits of students at O'Neill that kind of make them stand out?
Yeah, actually, they are different. And, I have really noticed that the students here they're very different from other places that I have had the opportunity to work at. And I'd say that some of the characteristics that have really struck me with the students here is that they truly are passionate about being involved. I think they're really concerned about the world that they live in and how they can make the world a better place. I think many are really called to leadership, and that's apparent. You see, we dominate in student government. We have so many people, I think, so many students that have been through here that really want to leave a positive legacy. They want to make things better for the students that are coming behind them, and then they're also preparing themselves to go out into the world to create change, make the world better, make the world into sort of a vision of what they would like to see in the world. So I think that passion that's really deep. I think a concern for others and this call to leadership, and I think that is really unique and really something that struck me when I came here.
The O'Neill School has alumni all over the world, again, in a wide range of careers. Sometimes you just run into them on the street, and you could talk about that if you like. But just what do you enjoy about interacting with alumni and being able to meet them? Because a lot of people, especially the ones that haven't been here recently, you didn't know when they were here, but you get to hear about their experiences.
Yeah, so when I meet alumni, I think the first thing that most people tell me and that I love to hear is their experiences from when they were a student here. And so I get to hear fantastic stories when I meet our alumni. And so who's their favorite professor? What was it that really made a difference in their lives? And for many people, I think being here has made a difference in their life. People often tell me little stories about, like their first job or their first internship or somebody that mentored them or kind of gave them a helping hand. And then, beyond their experience here, it's really fun just to see what people are now doing, because we have people just making a difference in so many different ways. I mean, we have alumni that are working in the area of sports law. We have alumni that are working for the federal government, for nonprofits, in the private sector, in consulting. I mean, you name it. I think that we
ambassador
have it.
to Ukraine.
Yeah, you're the ambassador to Ukraine. Yes, thank you. In politics, yes, Oksana Marakova. I mean, it's just kind of amazing that she was here doing her MPA. But also others, clearly as elevated as she is, doing just fantastic things for the US, the state, and the world, I would say, in all kinds of areas. And entrepreneurs, people just tearing it up in the area of science and policy. It really is fantastic. So I really just enjoy talking to people, because like when I hear their stories, they're all a bit unique, and everyone, I think, has kind of made their own journey. But everyone I've been talking to has really been very happy with their journey.
Well, and especially because it all comes out of a root of shared experiences with all of these people, because they were all here at O'Neill. It's a nice way to see, I guess, maybe you call it, the root of the tree, basically.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that they also, it's kind of O'Neill is the root of the tree, and I think that as our students have gone forward and graduated and become working professionals, they've also come back to help others, and I think that they have a really strong network as well. They really help each other connect out in the world, and our alumni really want to help the students that have come after them, because they remember all of the great times they had here.
The O'Neill School is celebrating its 50th anniversary this academic year. What has that experience been like for you to be the dean at the half-century mark?
Well, it's been a ton of fun. So it's been really great, and also it's been kind of humbling, because when I wasn't aware of some of the early history of the school when I first came here, and then getting the opportunity to dig through that, to learn, to have the opportunity to speak to some of the very early alumni, some of the first faculty members, clearly our founding dean, Chuck Bonser, just talking to everybody about what this school has achieved. And, it really has created fantastic leaders, fantastic citizens, I think, for I'd say sort of citizens writ large, citizens of the world, citizens of the US, people who've gone out and they're just ripping it up. And, they really have fantastic outcomes. And so, it's been super fun because everyone is very, very happy about that, our 50 years and what we've achieved. And just hearing the stories is just fantastic. There's been so many of them, and it's hard even to kind of run through them. But yeah, it's just been such a pleasure.
Looking at the foundation of the past 50 years, kind of give me your vision for the next 10 to 20 years of the O'Neill School and what impact it can make on policy, on the environment, and all these areas we've been talking about.
So, I think things are always fast changing in the world. And I think one thing about our school is that we change as the world changes. Like, we don't just sit back and think, well, we've been doing this for X number of years and we should just keep doing the same thing. But I think that some of the same things that we are going to keep doing as we move forward is, again, this focus on excellence, this focus on making the world a better place, this focus on helping our students to really succeed, to keep on producing the leaders of the future. And I think that as we have, I think, 36,000 alumni, in another 10 years, we're going to have so many more alumni, and each of them going out and doing really fantastic things. And in the areas of policy, I guess many of the issues that society faces, or that even the world and the US face, have been, some of the underlying issues are really just constant. They may be the same issues that we faced for a really long time. But I think we can, I think we have expertise to create positive change in so many areas. And I think going forward, we're going to be making more of an impact in healthcare and healthcare policy than we may have done before. We already have been doing a fantastic job in many areas, such as nonprofit management and public administration. And then, we're really leaning in heavily into sustainability and the environment. And there are just so many issues there where I think that we can make a contribution in the future. I know that our students are just passionate about that. And I think, many of our students are really concerned about what's happening in the environment that they and their kids are going to inherit in the future. And I think that that's where we can make a really big contribution in the future. I think primarily leadership, but also in those many different areas.
Last question I have for you. What message do you have for people when they ask about the O'Neill School?
I'd say first and foremost, come join us. It's a fantastic place, and come join us. We are really trying to make a difference. I think this is what I think this is exactly what institutions of higher education are built for: to be leaders in the world, to be thought leaders, to be leaders in advocacy and action. And I'd say just come join us, be a part of our group, and just watch us succeed, watch us lead. I think you're going to see a lot from us in the future, and you already have. But I think that the thing that you're going to see here is just change, and always positive change from us.
Dean Mooney, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us for our inaugural episode, and hopefully you'll be willing to join us again sometime in the future.
Oh, it's been my great pleasure. Thank you so much, Ken.
That's all the time we have today on O'Neill Speaks. O'Neill Speaks is the official podcast of the Paul H. O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. All opinions and comments on O'Neill Speaks belong to the host and the guest of the O'Neill School and don't necessarily reflect those of the school itself. Music for O'Neill Speaks is by Manos Mars. Be sure to subscribe to O'Neill Speaks on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcatcher app so you don't miss an episode. We're out of time, but for now and for the O'Neill School, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.